All right. Good morning or good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. Welcome, everyone, to our Wednesday Thought Farmer webinar here. We're excited to get things started off and talk about content reviews today. We will be just giving everyone a few minutes to log on. But while we do, we have another, for those of you who attended our Spotlight webinar last month, we'd like to throw in a little icebreaker question. So if you are here already, and while we wait for things to kick off, let us know in the chat what's your favorite summer vacation destination or summer activity or staycation. So the chat should be in the Zoom toolbar that you see there. And you can just like go ahead and type your message in there for sharing with everyone. Paddleboarding, Angie, yes, well, I love paddleboarding. I haven't successfully done it yet. I've like wobbled a lot and like fallen into the water. But I admire you for being able to stay upright. Amazing. Melanie saying floating on the in the lake, gin the lake. I want that's a Freudian slip there, Melanie. Nicely done. Anything in air conditioning, Lisa? Yes, I empathize with that for sure. Savannah loves going to the beach. Again, that is great. I just actually had my parents are in Italy right now, and they sent me some pictures this morning on their little village square with an aperitivo, and I could see myself in Italy right now. I wouldn't mind being there. So for those of you who are just joining, again, welcome. Welcome to our Thought Farmer webinar. We're just waiting a few more minutes to kick things off. But while we're waiting, we're all sharing our favorite summer activity or our favorite vacation destination. Do that in the chat in the Zoom toolbar. Paige lives in Alaska. Anything outdoors in the summer is incredible. Yeah, I've never visited Alaska. I'd really like to go, especially during the summer when you have, I don't know, 20 hours of daylight, I think it is. That sounds not too bad. All right, we'll give it one more minute before we get things started. It's 9:32 here on the West Coast, 12:32 on the East Coast there. Ooh, Deb, you're watching the World Cup. Yes. I read for Ian, who's on the call here, one of our Thought Farmer staff, whose homeland is Ireland. Ian, I did hear Canada defeated Ireland yesterday. My condolences.
Yes, they did. We had a very active WhatsApp group, and the lead up to and during, and various nephews who were kind of cheekily shaking their fist at me throughout.
Of course. Well, for you, it's easy. Like, no matter who wins, you're winning too, right? Being Canadian and Irish.
Technically, I am both, but I think I'll always be Irish at heart.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's 9:33 here in Vancouver. I think we can get started. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your favorite vacation activity. It's always nice to get things started off with a little chit chat on these webinars. So I'm your host, Caroline, for today. And I'll just like run us through what we are looking at today. Of course, we are doing a spotlight webinar where we want to introduce you to the newest feature that we launched about a week ago, our content review tool. So we're going to give you a bit of an overview of what it is, how it works. We'll do a demo and show you on a demo site exactly how you can use it. And then for the latter part of the webinar, we're going to get chatting. We're going to break out into little breakout rooms, and we'll have a conversation, with each other around anything that has to do with stale content, content sprawl, outdated content, all of those fun things, and how to best tackle those challenges. So that will be the latter part of the webinar. You'll really get to talk with fellow Thought Farmer customers, and of course, every breakout room will have a Thought Farmer expert to kind of facilitate the conversation too. So that's what you have to look forward to today. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. First off, we are going to be recording the session today. So if you have to leave halfway through or you want to revisit some of this later or share with a coworker, we will have a recording available that we'll post on the community site. Only the presentation portion of today's webinar will be recorded. None of the breakout conversations will be. That will be completely off the record, if you will. Secondly, we have, as you can see, we have quite a crowd of ThoughtFarmer team members here today. So if you have any questions at all during the presentation or the demo, you have a Q&A function here in Zoom that you can find in your toolbar. So if you have any questions at all, please feel free to type it into that Q&A box and somebody will be there to answer your question. And also after we finish the demo, we'll have a few minutes to just discuss any questions that might have come up that haven't been answered yet. All right, there we go. So let's get started. And we always like to start with the pain, which is not a very fun place to start, but it does provide some context on like what the problem space is with content management on intranets and why we went and built this content review feature for ThoughtFarmer. And a lot of the pain or the challenges that we're hearing, we know from conversations with you guys, right, with our customers. And some of the things we've heard over the years is that, you know, after you launch your intranet, you launch your intranet, it's nice and fresh and shiny and all up to date. But as time passes and more content gets added, sometimes you get into a space where there's, you know, some outdated information on your intranet. Some pages might have incorrect content. A lot of times you also hear about people having duplicate information. So 2 or more versions of the same file are floating around on the internet, different pages with similar content are floating around, and there's just some confusion about which content is correct and which content is, the source of truth, if you will. Lack of content governance is sometimes a cause of some of these outdated and sprawly content items, right? For not some organizations struggle with really putting some clear guidelines in terms of governance for their internet in place, right? And it's in those cases, it becomes unclear who owns information on the internet in the different sections or the different groups or areas. And that can lead to, you know, content never being reviewed if nobody's assigned to it. Poor content discoverability. This is something where, and you might have run into this when you've talked to your staff and you hear things like, oh, you know what, I just like spent searching for this one file forever. I can never find it. You know, the internet search is broken. Those are kind of things that you'll start hearing. And that happens not because the search is broken, but because there is that content sprawl and a lot of perhaps irrelevant content items that are sort of spamming or polluting the valuable content or search results on the internet. The fourth here, and that's more of a consequence, right? If people start having trouble finding information or they come across a lot of inaccurate or outdated content, you know, the confidence is starting to go down. They will feel like perhaps they can't trust all of the information that's on the internet, and ultimately that can lead to them no longer visiting the internet or no longer seeing it as a reliable source of information. So does this sound familiar for all of you guys on the call today? We have a little poll that we wanted to share here. And Ben, if I could ask you to launch the poll, you'll see it up on the screen here now. And we kind of wanted to know for those kind of pain points that we just went through, does that resonate with you guys? How many of you are encountering these types of problems on your own internet? So feel free to click one. I believe you can choose more than one option in the poll as well, because you know some of these kind of go hand in hand. So go ahead and click on that, and then in a minute or so, I will share the results so that we can see what's the most popular pain point that we're experiencing today in terms of content sprawl. I'm seeing the results come in here. I'm definitely seeing a trend here. So we'll give it maybe 10 more seconds and then I will go ahead and share the results here. All right, here we go. I'm going to end the poll. Oh, Ben's already done it. And then I will share the results. So you can see that up on the screen now. So surprise, surprise, like all four challenges are definitely common with you guys. And I think the first one, which is definitely the one that we hear about the most often, it sounds like that one is most painful or the most common pain point with you guys as well. Having that, you know, duplicate information, outdated, irrelevant content on the internet and dealing with that, right? Um, so yeah, that's interesting. I mean, interesting, unsurprising, I would say, but we do hear those pain points quite often, like I said, especially after a few years. And so with that in mind, we our product team went to the brainstorm room and started thinking about how we could make it easier for our customers, for you guys, to kind of tackle this problem and hopefully help fix some of that. So that's why we built our content review tools. And just before we dive into the demo, I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefits of activating this feature and start using it on your ThoughtFarmer intranet. Um, the the first one is that with the way that we built this feature or this tool for you is that to really encourage a collaborative approach to content reviews or content management. You'll see that we have reviewers that we can assign to content on ThoughtFarmer, and we can have people really work together, post notes, and kind of tackle the review work together rather than having it on the shoulders of one person only. Um, Visibility and accountability, and that goes a really long way. Having clear owners or assigned reviewers for content really raises that bar of accountability and makes it really clear for people who owns which content, and is responsible for kind of the process of reviewing it on a regular basis. We built the feature to be very flexible, hopefully, you know, increasing that efficiency for your team to do these content reviews, right? So you'll see that you can have certain areas of the internet that are being reviewed by a group of people. Other areas might be just one specific person who's reviewing that content. So we did try to make it as efficient as possible and as flexible as possible so that it works for every team. And lastly, and of course, that's the main benefit, right? Like starting to use these content reviews and getting into the habit of doing those kind of regular reviews of the information, the location, really will result hopefully in a more accurate internet, more well organized content, more well written content that really aligns with your internet goals and sometimes even complies with some of your compliance standards that you might have as a business. So there we go. Those are some of the benefits of doing content reviews and using the content review tool in more specifically. So in short, you know, the content review feature will really help you to improve the quality and the accuracy of the content on your internet in a way that really encourages a collaborative approach and for people to take ownership and be accountable for certain areas of the internet. And as a result, of course, hopefully you'll have a better internet, you'll have more engaged employees, you'll have employees who are more productive and saving more time and overall improving the way people share knowledge in your organization. All right. With that in mind, we're going to go ahead and go into our live demo here. So I will switch to my training site here and show you what it's all about. That's why we're all here today. So the first thing I'll show you is your content review dashboard. So I'm here on this fictitious intranet, and I'm going to open up my profile menu here, where you will see a new option here under required reading. It's called content reviews. So if I go here, and every staff member, every user on your internet will see that link, it's going to present a dashboard to me with all of the content reviews that are assigned to me. If I wanted to see all of the reviews on the site, I have those permissions. I can open up this drop down and select all reviews, and then you'll see everything that is currently active in terms of reviews on this intranet. Now from here, I can also create a new review, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on this button right here. it opens up a slide out menu here. And the first thing I'm going to do, of course, is search for the section or the page or the group that I want to start a review for. So in this case, I'm going to start a review for our policies and procedures section. That might be an area that is very important for us on our intranet, something that we might want to review regularly to make sure all of those policies are still accurate. As I select this section, you will see a message here that indicates that every page that lives underneath this policies and procedures section is also going to be included in this review, right? So I'm not only reviewing this main page, everything underneath there is going to be included. There are certain types of content that are never included in content reviews, and those are news posts, calendar events, forum topics, any profile pages, and any content that is created underneath someone's profile, right? So that's good to know. And it's just the nature of those types of content usually are more ephemeral in nature and don't need content reviews. So just know that those will automatically be excluded from any review you set up. Okay, so I'll choose my dates for the review here. So I'll have it start today and I'll give all of my reviewers, I'll put a due date of end of August, maybe. Putting a due date is going to make sure that when this review is overdue, any of your reviewers that you've assigned are going to get a notification to tell them like, hey, you're assigned to review this content. It's now overdue. Go ahead and take a look. Next up, I can set the recurrence or the schedule for a content review. And that is usually, not every review might need this, but for certain more high traffic, high importance content on your internet, you might want to set up a cadence so that every 6 months or every 12 months, for example, a new content review cycle is kicked off. So I'll just leave this for 6 months. You can also set it as do not repeat if it's just a one-time review that you're doing. All right, so the next one here is reviewers, right? So you can add any groups or individuals on your internet as a reviewer. Somebody's going to work on reviewing this content. By default, it will put the page owner as the as well as the person who's kicking off the review as a reviewer. And you can add then any other people that you want to have participate in this review. So in this case, I will have our human resources group. Anybody who is a member of that group, I would like to participate in this review as well. This one here, add a note. This is a note for your reviewers. Any instructions or guidelines you want to give them, you could type in here. And that will also be included in the email notification that will be sent out. So any reviewer, so I'm just going to click on save here. Everyone who is assigned to review this section is going to get a notification both in the app as well as via email that indicates, hey, you've been assigned to do this review. Click here to go and get started. They'll also get an email that will include the note that you've put there. And like I mentioned, when things get overdue, when the review is overdue, people who are assigned will receive a kind of a nudge there as well. So we can now see my policies and procedures review is listed here in our dashboard. I'll just quickly go and show you how you can also start a review from a page itself. So not from the dashboard, but from an actual page. So I'll go to one of our team spaces here on this intranet, the Whistler group. And if I wanted to kickstart a review straight from here, I can do that through this ellipses menu here, the 3 dots. If you have the right permissions, you'll see a create review button here at the very bottom. I can click on that and it brings up the same sort of slide out menu. The only difference is that, of course, it has already selected which content I am reviewing here. So again, I'll put some dates. Maybe I'll only give them a week for this one. And again, I can add any reviewers here. So maybe I want to add Marcella and anyone who is in our Whistler group as well. And for this one, maybe I'll add a little note to let people know exactly what I'm hoping they can take action on during this review, right? Take some time, review the content of all of the pages, make sure all of the information is accurate. If it doesn't leave in the right place, feel free to move it around. If there's irrelevant pages, feel free to delete or archive. Just some, little notes for the people who are going to be participating. I'll click on save. And once I've saved and launched this review, you can see that there's now a banner here at the top that says there's a review active on the Whistler group. And this is when it's due, right? Um, there's a finish review button here as well that I can't click just quite yet, because that would mean I finish the review for all of the Whistler group pages, obviously without looking at any of them. So I can't quite finish the review here from this point. If I do click on maybe one of the sub pages, for example, these vacation photos, right? This is just a sub page here. If I'm one of the reviewers, I can take a look at this and say, you know what, this looks good. Photos are still good and accurate. I'm going to mark this page as reviewed. So I'm going to click on that page, ask you to confirm, mark as reviewed, and then the banner here will indicate now it was last reviewed on July 26th. There's a link here to go directly to the main Whistler page to finish the review. Plus, as a bonus, notice this nice little review icon, verified icon in your page title. You can turn this off, this option, if you do not wish to show these verified badges. You can turn that off in the configuration settings. But by default, it will kind of show you this visual indicator like, hey, this is reviewed. Okay, so let's go back to the dashboard. Again, through my profile menu here. And what I wanted to show is, let's say that I am assigned as a reviewer for the Whistler team group here. This is what I will see in my dashboard, right? I'm going to see Whistler. I'm going to be able to click on that to see all of the pages underneath. So I can drill down as deep as I want to. And notice that people can mark a page as reviewed straight from the dashboard as well. I showed you how to do that on the page, but they can do it from here as well, straight away. There's a link here. So if I click on this icon at the very right, it'll open up that specific page directly in the browser. And for every reviewer as well, if they want a reminder of the instructions for this review, you can always click on this paper icon here, this note that gives, again, that note that I put in initially as the review creator here. Finishing the review will, again, we'll finish the entire review. So we'll mark all of these pages here as reviewed, although we, of course, always encourage you to take a look at the pages themselves before marking them as reviewed. And this is, I just want to highlight this very satisfying sort of progress bar as you are going through a review and finishing up or marking some sections as reviewed. You'll start to see, you and everybody in the team will start to see how much progress you've made in that specific review project. All right, so that is sort of in a nutshell an overview of the content review feature. And there's much more detail and nuance to it as well that we can go through, which we won't do today. But if you start using the feature and you have any questions, of course, you're more than welcome to get in touch with me or get in touch with your customer success manager, and we'll help you get right on track or answer any other questions that you may have. Before we, so this is the end of the demo. Before we dive into our breakout rooms and Q&A, there's a few things I just wanted to highlight that might be good to know before you start. So the first one here is, yes, this feature is only available to cloud customers. If there are any people on the line here today that are using ThoughtFarmer on premises, we are sort of starting the sunset of that version of ThoughtFarmer. If you are interested in the content review tool or moving to ThoughtFarmer Cloud, please reach out to your customer success manager and they can help you get started with that process or answer any questions that you might have around that. Second one here, yes, we do recommend to assign content reviews in smaller portions, right? Try to start small and make it more digestible, especially as you start to kind of trying out the feature. Don't go and like assign the entire intranet as one review, because that feels really overwhelming. And we know this from experience. We've obviously tested out the feature on our own intranet, and really setting up the reviews in small chunks feels very manageable and helps the team just kind of get used to the idea of reviewing content. And then lastly, just again, a reminder, certain types of content are excluded from reviews, right? Profile pages, news posts, calendar events, and forum topics. So that is just good to know before you get started. Content reviews is active on all of your intranets. We rolled out an update last week, so you can get started right today. Let us know again how you like it, what you think about it, any questions, any improvements. We are always looking forward to hearing feedback and making it even more awesome than it already is. So with that, I'm just going to see and check in with the team here if there are, I'm seeing lots of activity in the chat. I'm just wondering, is there any Q questions that are currently unanswered? Any new questions I can answer before we head into our breakout discussion? I'm just scanning here through the chat.
Hey, Caroline, this is Ben. We do have a couple questions. Angie had a question, and so did Donna. Jasper has followed up with Teresa, but just for Angie and Donna, I didn't see a follow-up to those questions.
Okay, perfect. So I'm looking here. So Angie, if we set this up at the page creation stage for a new page, and the reviewer is no longer with the company when it's time for the review, how does that work? Will the administrator get a notification email? Yes, super good question, Angie. And yeah, we that is indeed something that we thought through. So if a review is active and it has reviewers that are inactive, so they're no longer users on your ThoughtFarmer intranet, your system administrator will get a notification to indicate to them like, hey, there's a review here that doesn't have an active user as a reviewer. So go ahead and fix that, right? So yes, you will get a notification there. Donna's asking, can all users see this on the page or only the admins and reviewers? And that's a good question. So I'm just going to dive into our admin panel where you have some options there we go, our content reviews area, right? So by default, if you set up a review, only people who are marked as reviewers on that review will be able to see that, right? But what you can decide as a ThoughtFarmer administrator is which people do you want to allow on your intranet to set up reviews? And that's what you can do here in this admin level page. So you can make it, by default, it goes, it's available only for super administrators, so people who have all of the full admin rights. But you are also able to set it up for certain admin roles only. For anyone who's an editor, that's another option. Or you can really get very granular and give the access to individual people or security groups. So that is very flexible here on the admin side of things. And then I think there's a question from Matt. Is it possible for a person assigned to review a page to provide notes back as part of their review? I don't believe there is currently. It's one of the things that we discussed, but I don't think, and Johnny, if Johnny's on the call here, I might ask him if he has further insight because he is a member of our product team. Johnny, do you know offhand? I don't believe
No.
there.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, it's only like a one-way communications right now to provide instructions on the content review. There is no back and forth attached to that review currently. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Johnny. Yeah, I know it came up in like some of our design conversations, but currently, yeah, it's just that initial note. Angie here has a question too. Who can see the updated last on note on the page? And let me just go back to our Whistler page here. So Angie, is this the message that you are talking about? The last reviewed? I believe, if so, I believe this is visible to anybody who can view the page. Johnny, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is, not everyone will be able to review the page, but the last review date will be visible for everyone.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And the same goes for, in case you mean this one here. This is embarrassing, 2017. But this last updated, that's when the page was last edited and updated. That is also visible for anyone who has view permissions on the page. All right. I don't see any new questions anymore. So I think we can get started. And for those of you who are sticking around, please, please hold on. Ben is going to put us all in a breakout room. Again, every room will have a ThoughtFarmer staff member to kind of chat a little more about the feature and about the problems with content sprawl. Before we do break off, because we won't be coming back to the main presentation room here, but just wanted to thank everybody for joining today. Again, the main session here is recorded and we'll share that all out on the community side in a few days. And again, please go forth and try out, set up your content reviews. We are pretty excited about this feature and really looking forward to see how it does out there in the world, and any feedback or questions that you guys may have we'll welcome all of those. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Ben, I think you can press the magic button to put us in the rooms here.